Hello, I'm Liliana Velasquez, and I welcome you all to Slippery People, where we start interviewing all of our guests from Sunday Slips throughout the years. My first guest, I'm so delighted to have with us, is Dee Mulrooney.
Hi.
Hi. Otherwise known as the Growler.
Well, it's not the Growler. Her name is Growler.
Oh.
She doesn't have a...
She doesn't have a
preposition. Is it a preposition?
But she's got pronouns.
She has pronouns.
She, gee.
Gee, that's her pronoun.
Beautiful. Yeah. Dee, my first question would be, how did you find out about Sunday Slips, or how did you end up there the first time ever?
It was during lockdown. It was the first Sunday Slips after lockdown.
Oh, when we did the music outside.
Fête de la musique, yeah. That was a really whopper Sunday Slips. But I had met you previous to that at the Holy Cunt Collective.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Dee is a multifaceted artist, from painter, muse, performance artist, singer. What else do you do, Dee? Mother, that's an art form.
Yeah.
What else do you do?
Well, let's keep going. Ask me a question.
All right, tell us about your paintings and your more traditional art form.
So I have always been drawing, not painting, and facilitating other people's creativity. And I really only started making art, I'd say, about 7 or 8 years ago. In the middle of a nervous breakdown. Well, you know, I think it wasn't a full-blown nervous breakdown, but it was definitely, we'd just moved country, and I was really suffering with my mental health, and it was basically my partner said, you better do something.
Supportive partner.
Or else go and get some therapy or something, because it was just too much to manage within the family. The anxiety levels were through the roof. So I started making art.
Wow. And you're so prolific. Yeah. Now, where can we find your art?
Instagram, Facebook, all the socials. I've just started making prints as well. I've just started reproducing my art as print, because I believe that art should be available.
Affordable?
Yeah, completely. So printing is a great way of making art more accessible. So I love the idea of people being able to afford to have my art on their walls, you know.
Well, I have some.
You have an original.
I do. And I bought it. I bought it at Retramp Gallery, where Dee's going to be having a show pretty soon.
Yeah, in the springtime.
So would you say the character Growler that I got to get very close to and involved with in performances, did this character come from your drawings and your sketches?
It came from, actually, a friend of mine has an online magazine called The Wild Word, and she supports kind of artists who are not writers and artists who are not really known. She gives a platform for that. She's a real curator with heart. Really high quality work, and she asked me would I be an agony ant.
An agony ant.
So Growler started off as an agony ant. She was a drawing originally of a vagina dentata, and I thought, imagine if your old granny vagina could talk, your old granny vulva could talk, what would she say to you? What advice would she give?
Yeah.
And that's how Growler was born. So she's basically an ancestor. She's kind of a conglomeration, is that the right word, of my own past, my own personal story, my mother's, my grandmother's. She's from the Liberties in Ireland, which is a place known for its kind of, what would you say, people who are a little bit outside the box. She's from that place, yeah, definitely. And that's where it started. I started off as writing for the Wild Word magazine as an agony ant, and I kept Growler secret.
Make sure I've got the agony, like
Yeah, like an agony ant. But these agony. I
love the name. I've never heard it before.
You don't have this in like where you'd write in problems into a newspaper.
Dear agony ant.
Or dear whoever, dear Growler. My boyfriend sucks or whatever, or doesn't suck.
What do I do?
Whatever.
Don't suck it.
Yeah, basically. Basically. Sex work advice, no.
Yeah.
But this is what agony ants do. So it's in Ireland and England, you would have these newspapers where there would be a section for the agony ant, So that's what Growler was doing. She was giving advice to people through the wild word. And then I kept her secret for a long time. I mean, for well over a year and a half, because I was concerned that they would get me, you know, like the Catholic Church, the priests, the guards. I just felt like it was so risque. I mean, it sounds ridiculous now. Growler's, I think, about 5 years. I drew the picture, and I remember thinking, oh, that's mad. I'm mad. But I was afraid to say that it was me because I'm also a teacher and I teach small kids. So I felt like
and anything that has to do with empowering female sexuality is quite controversial.
Yeah, but the shame was really deep coming from Catholic Ireland as well. And I guess being in Berlin then, meeting you had a big influence on me being more, I suppose, comfortable and confident about who Growler was, shameless, you know, to go into that part, and you having a Catholic upbringing as well, to see how empowering it is, and absolutely hilarious and joyful to break out of that shame.
Absolutely.
So then I started admitting that I was Growler after I performed her the first time. Cussy, my friend who has the Wild Word magazine, was saying, I think you should say that you're Growler. Yeah. You know? And I did. It was terrifying. It was really terrifying. Because again, I thought like, terrifying and liberating. But you think this kind of feminine, I don't know if it's a witch wound but it's an archetypal wound in the female, that if you step forward into any kind of wildness, that you're either going to be locked away or ostracized or demonized or whatever. I mean, Lilith, Eve, it's Magdalene, it's happened to them all. So I think I was kind of feeling that deep somewhere in my subconscious, you know. And now even when I think about Growler, when I step out of it and I look back or I look at it, I forget how confronting she is.
Yeah.
Like a vulva is a very confronting thing, really.
It's the biggest vulva I've seen.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
She can hold a lot in there. Yeah. Tea bags, dildos, you know, rosary beads.
Rosary beads.
It's all in there. So yeah, that was a big part of my, what's the word? Well, you know, what's the right word? I'm not going to...
Voyage?
Yeah. Or owning it. Owning this is what I want to do.
Yeah, because the first time I remember that you were holding a women's healing circle.
Yeah.
And from that circle itself, many of us were artists, and there was singing and just holding space for the sacred feminine, and also for releasing shame and just holding each other up in situations. And that became the Holy Cunt Collective eventually. And Growler for me has always been kind of the head of, or the glue, or shall I say lube, natural lubrication that joined all these slippery women together.
Perfect. The matriarch.
The matriarch.
Yeah. The mushy matriarch.
So the first time that you did Sunday Slips after the pandemic, Growler was pretty fresh in public eye.
Yeah, actually she was.
Because the pandemic locked us down.
Yeah, that was only like her, I don't know, her fourth performance ever or something.
You came in with a drum.
That was the first time as well that I'd used a drum. And it was that was a powerful experience, actually. Also, me walking into that Sunday Slip space, I mean, I just think it's phenomenal that it's been going for 9 years now, without fail. Like, it's
every Sunday, no matter what.
But it really moves me, actually, what it is, what Sunday Slips is. I think it's like, it's also art in a really high form. Like, the performances are incredible. You know, I'm genuinely moved to tears most times I go there, either through the poetry or the singing. Then
what about the comedy?
Yeah, then there's the comedy, of course, like, but that goes without saying. But I just feel like there's something about what you're doing with Sunday Slips that is, it's like social, historical folklore. And it's connected to the community. And it's really, talk about the glue, talk about the lube, like, it's just, the fact that it keeps going as well, and it's there, it's consistent, it's underground, there's a real power about that, you know.
It's our little clubhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, Winton and I it just, you know, became its own element, and we just keep offering a space for artists, professionals, amateurs, all walks of life. I mean, you've done singing, you've done Growler, you can do poetry, and it's always lovely to see somebody come in and sign up and do a different thing than what you expect, or take a
And
chance.
also to bring people there. Like for me, it's like whenever people come from Ireland or family are visiting, it's like we have to go to Sunday Slips. This is real. There's a real kind of it's Berlin. It's that Berlin. It's what can happen in Berlin. I think Sunday Slips for me is representative of what can happen in Berlin.
That's nice.
In that really kind of underground, creative, collaborative way, where it's a big yes to your creativity.
Yeah.
And there's a space that's held there, and it doesn't come at a cost. In fact, you come away feeling really full. Always, like it's an incredible thing that you're doing. So,
Well, we try, and we can't do it without artists like you
Yeah.
and everybody else that signs up. As you know, we don't book anyone; it's a practice room, so that's quite exciting every week. Because I like to call it controlled chaos, since it's quite chaotic. I don't know who's going to come in, but
And when the online thing happened, it's just great. I mean, it was just like a baptism of fire, but you did it. And I love those early ones.
We try to forget about our live streaming.
I watched it. I loved it. It was this space. I mean, it was like an incubator, and you did it. You know, you stepped up and you did it in that time where you had to learn like how much technical stuff did you learn?
I don't think I learned anything. I think I learned to have professionals help me out.
Yeah.
I learned that I was muted most of the time. Gave really long monologues that nobody heard, and they were brilliant. Brilliant.
Hey guys, welcome to Slippery People. My name is Quentin Kelly Stevenson. Sunday Slips, if you know what it is, you know where you saw me or you saw me around. I've been playing music for a long time, artists for a long time. And yeah, we share the stage with the rest of the humans around us. And hopefully you like what you hear.
So what's the next for Growler? What is in the books for you, not only as Growler, the performance artist, but also as Dee Mulrooney, the multi-talented woman?
Well, I'd love to move more, forward more in art. All I want to do is make art, really. It's what brings me the most joy, and it's my heart's desire. I've had some really rocky kind of paths with Growler. It's been really hard at times where, I've wanted to hang up her flaps. And then she comes along a few days later with a full download of some piece. She's had a huge amount of rejection also, which has been very character forming. And
rejection is usually a positive thing. It means you're somewhat triggering people in directions that they can't handle, and maybe they come back to accepting it. But it also, I feel like as artists, rejection is important for growth and for perseverance.
Mm-hmm. And I've taken it that way. It's like, I'm disappointed for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. It gets easier, and I'm realizing that's part of the path. You're like, yeah,
let's go.
Let's get the war paint on. But it's Growler actually that keeps the motivation. It's hard to explain what happens with her, and more when I perform with her. I know it sounds odd to be talking about yourself in the third person, but she's a full body costume, and she smells like an ancestor now because it's impossible to wash her,
She
smells like
synthetic fabrics.
Oh, she's 100% polyester, 100% natural polyester, she'd say herself. She's the divine feminine shadow, She's the earth shadow, but she honestly is becoming more and more real for me. It's not just
she's mask work as well. You're tapping into some mask work and spinal cord stimulation, which is really, really profound, especially when you're working with ancestors and healing. Speaking of that, you had the opportunity a few months ago to do your first solo show in a very special location, and it was sold out. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it was the Chapel Royal, which was the seat of British Empire for over 700 years. In a very potent place, the convergence of two rivers, which we know before the chapel was there, before the Brits were there, that there was people living there for, 1,000 years.
I mean, people always lived by water.
Exactly. But even the convergence, though, was always a really potent place, where a lot of rituals and stuff would happen. So you can feel the power of that convergence underneath the building. And so I was there to reconsecrate the chapel in honor of the divine feminine shadow. So the building had been unconsecrated since the 1980s, and Growler went in and reconsecrated this.
I don't know what the word consecrated means.
I'm surprised that you don't, since you were raised Catholic.
Yeah, but in Espanol.
Consagración.
Consagración? No.
So consecrated means that it's blessed for a particular religion, Protestant
I never
or Catholic.
did my confirmation.
Did you not?
Nope.
Consecration is different, but anyway, I don't actually know that much about consecration, but it's unconsecrated, which means that somebody decided it's no longer holy.
So it was blessed and then it was unblessed.
Yeah. And but the place itself
sounds like what they did to women.
Basically, yeah. When agriculture came along, but I felt in the space, because all the names of all the viceroys, basically all the British who were in power in Ireland, covered the windows, all the stained glass windows, and it's a fantastic building. It's neo-Gothic. It's really, really stunning, gorgeous feat of architecture. But no woman, no sense of the feminine there whatsoever. So Growler went in and reconsecrated the place and took back the space.
How did you feel at this performance in particular? I mean, this was also your first solo show as Growler, and you've been working on it for a very long time. I remember the nerves and, what happened when you took that space and you just stepped into it.
Well, actually, it was a funny thing because it was a church space, and my dream was always for Growler to be there. I saw her visually on an altar in a church with a big, shamanic drum. Yeah, big whip, cat o' nine tails, bend over, BDSM. But I saw her with the giant shamanic drum on an altar. When I first created her, that's what I thought, that's where she needs to go. That's the pinnacle for Growler. And I never thought I would get there. So when the Dublin Fringe offered this space, I was like, is this really happening? So when they gave me the keys, like I go into Dublin Castle, this is like, there's a massive wall built around it, which was called the Pale, where Dublin was enclosed. And then outside of the Pale, where my ancestors are from, the Liberties, was everybody else, you know? And so people in the Liberties weren't under the king's rule. So it's kind of like the Wild West, you know, outside of the Pale. But they were free. They were libertarian. They were, you know, liberty. That's where the word comes from. So for me to go in there as a, you know, it's in my DNA that I'm from the Liberties. Inside the walls of the castle with Growler, like they gave me a key. It's just a normal key.
Like an old-fashioned key?
No, it's like a
modern key?
Not a modern key. I'd say it's like a 1970s key. And you just go up to, like, in the middle of Dublin Castle, there's this spectacular chapel, and the porters are like, yeah, you just go on, park up over there, grand, no bother. So I'm going in with my crew, kind of going, opening the door into this space that held...
You're like, don't steal anything.
You know, the most power in the world at one point. Mm-hmm. It just felt completely surreal and actually easy. The funny thing was, it felt easy. It felt like we were meant to be there. It felt like we lived there. You know, all week we were kind of going, this is like our gaff. It's like we live here, you know.
Nice.
Walking up around the balconies and all the amazing sculpture and all the rooms, you know, all these little kind of hidden rooms where the priests would get into their dresses and stuff. And so, yeah, it was a powerful experience. And I think, you know, there's a part of me because of that is really deeply satisfied. Really deeply satisfied. I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't expect it to be sold out. I didn't expect people to be screaming down the patriarchy with Growler. Like, I mean, the screams on the last night were just, everybody was like, let's bring this down energetically, you know. It felt really powerful and very supported and held. So after that, then I didn't think anything. I just kind of thought, like, that's that mission done. I feel really satisfied, feel really nourished. And then I was offered a fantastic space in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival next year, like an incredible location, Summer Hall, right in the middle of the festival.
You're doing it. It's coming to you naturally.
Yeah, so it feels, and it also feels as well, you know, one for the working class, like in a sense, and Summer Hall as well really supports working class artists, and that's kind of like, for me, it's one of the pieces that's still not really talked about. You know, we're very kind of woke in lots of ways, you know, feminism, equality, LGBTQ plus, all of these things, but class is still a little bit taboo. Class doesn't really affect us anymore.
Oh yeah, it does.
Right, it does.
Yeah, it does.
You know, it really does. So. For me, and also earlier talking about affordable art, you know, Kathy Kollwitz, who was Kathy Kollwitz, was a German artist, and she was really connected. Her and her husband did a lot of work for working class people in Berlin. Kollwitzstrasse is named after her.
Don't know where that is.
And she started in Prenzlauer Berg, but she started to make, and there would have been a lot of ghettos there at the time. She wanted art to be accessible for everybody. She was like, why can't everybody have beautiful things on their walls? Like, so that's why she became a printmaker, so that it would be affordable, you know. And I'm all for that. I'm like, it doesn't cheapen your art because it's more accessible. And I'm, again, about that, like with Growler, it's like, she's a voice for the voiceless. She's a voice for my own, as well, insecurities. Like, it took me a long time to say that I was an artist. I felt a little bit arsey, you know. I'm an artist. Or even what does that mean? Yeah, art. Art. It felt like it was a very hard thing for me to claim. It was really hard. It was like, it would get stuck here. No, you're not. Don't be ridiculous, you know. It was easy to be a teacher to facilitate other people's creativity. But for me, an artist was somebody who, it was kind of almost unattainable. You know, so now I'm saying, yeah, no, I'm an artist, and I'm working more and more to becoming a full-time artist.
Well, you're one of my favorite artists in the world. I've met many, many, many crazy artists, and I have to say that from your performance work to your prints to your drawings to your healing circles, you've influenced a lot of my work, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
And my final question for you is, if you could give younger you advice, what would it be?
Don't study graphic design and be an artist. Like, seriously. I loved teaching, but it would be draw. I stopped drawing at one point. And that's why I say to, you know, people now, follow your heart's desire. I thought, like, yeah, I'll follow my heart's desire eventually. I'm lucky. I'm a late bloomer, and I got there I feel like I'm already there because that's what I want to do. That's what I would say, is follow your heart's desire. Because it doesn't matter shit anyway. You know, we're doomed. You might as well do what you like.
That's true.
But actually, you know, again, back to Sunday Slips and meeting you and the Holy Cunt crew. We do that. We follow our heart's desire. You follow your heart's desire.
Yeah, I'm
really
a big
admire that,
believer in
you know?
creating the art you want to see in the world. And a
Yeah.
lot of times that's gotten me in trouble or isolated a bit, but eventually you always find your elk, your sisterhood, your brotherhood.
Your elk, like with
Yeah, your
giant antlers.
And I don't know.
It's a really good point to make the art that you want to see. That's actually what I didn't realize, but that's actually what I tried to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd love this hanging on my wall.
I'm going to make it.
Then somebody else might like it.
Yeah.
And it's true, because we're not isolated.
No.
We have so much in common that we forget that, you know? And if we're trying to create something that we think is going to fit the mold, forget about it. There's no point.
No, you got to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we hope to see you at a Sunday Slips again.
For
you know,
shiz.
it's show up to sign up.
For shizzle, yeah. Sometime soon.
And please, we will be sharing the links of where you're performing next and all of your social media. It's at Growler on Instagram.
Growler Speaks.
Growler Speaks on Instagram. Now, we do have a short video clip that we're going to be sharing with you so that you can find out more about this amazing artist, Dee Mulrooney. And thank you for being a slippery person.
Thank you for being such good lubricant.
May I always be your lube. This is recorded at Wave.studio. We're so honored to be participating with this and bringing you our art talks, our slippery person interview. We'll see you next week.
Some people tell me that I'm very angry, you know. They just say, "Oh my God, you're very angry. Do you know you sound like a man?" Or maybe it's just your hard working class accent. Angry, I do say. You better believe it, pal. I'm raging. I'm so raging I could put you through that fucking wall. But you know, you don't need to be afraid of my rage, because my rage is an alchemist's fire. Born of the centre of this earth, my mother's womb. My rage can transmute lead into gold, pain into power. But not that kind of power. Those days are gone, my friend. I'm talking about the power to love, and the power to heal, and the power to forgive. My rage is the mothers of the Stardust 48. My rage is the mothers in direct provision, the mothers whose babies are drowning in the Mediterranean, the mothers of the Amazon burning. My rage is every woman and girl that has ever been raped or abused. My rage is every woman and girl that has been and is sold into sex slavery.